What do you think the Vegas odds are on Tim making that over me? Do you think they're pretty high?
I would say so. What's up, everybody, and welcome to Hindsight Heroes, our very first episode. I'm Tim Wolf, that's Michael Hoefling, and we are excited to do our very first episode of Hindsight Heroes.
Long time coming, man. Long time coming.
Long time coming. We've been talking about it, scheming, planning, coming up with names. You finally came up with Hindsight Heroes. I think it rings true. I like it.
Well, you know, we do like hindsight, but I think we're going to provide a little bit of foresight too as well. So hopefully we can do that.
Hopefully we can do both, but today we are going to start off with some big news that broke a couple days ago in the NHL. The Philadelphia Flyers have introduced their new mascot, Gritty. Yeah, so that is Gritty. What do you think?
I'm just waiting for somebody to make a horror remix of that music, honestly, and put it to a new trailer, make it a new theme. Seems kind of weird, but the more I look at him, the more I like him.
I'd have to agree with you on that. I actually heard, though, that he was originally intended to be a puppet on Sesame Street to teach kids the dangers of meth.
Nice pick, Tim. Nice pick.
Yeah, it took me a little while to Photoshop that one, but you know.
Well, the first thing
do it for the show.
Yeah, the first thing I thought was I definitely need to go to a game, throw a sock on them, and yell, "We got a 23-19." He looks just like Gary Sanderson, man. If you knew that was the name of that monster, props to you.
Props to you. You're a big Monsters fan. All right, moving on. We have the Colorado Buffaloes mascot. We hope you're having a better week than this guy did last week. Here's what he did to himself last Saturday.
T-shirt today.
We've all been there, right?
I don't think so.
You don't think
I have not.
Personally,
I have not.
You didn't have swimming friends then, it seems.
Well, I didn't swim, so.
Yeah, I know.
I just played football and tore my knees a million times. All right, so they actually took Chip to the hospital after that just to give him a checkup. They checked his virility, and the prognosis was not good. He is going to be probably contributing to that endangered species problem that buffalo have.
Yeah, it's not good to see, but survival of the fittest, I guess, right?
Yeah, well, T-shirt gun to the Nard's probably not the smartest buffalo out there, so.
Yeah.
All right, speaking of buffaloes and making babies, Jordan Matthews,
great tweet.
He says, according to Sports Illustrated, he explained that he and his wife had a baby in Buffalo because there ain't nothing to do there except each other.
He's not wrong. I mean, explorebuffalo.org says that baby making is in fact the fourth most popular activity behind Niagara Falls, breaking tables, and moving anywhere else. So I don't
literally anywhere else. Literally anywhere else.
Absolutely. I mean, when you watch Nathan Peterman, you can't stay there for too long.
That I would have to agree with that one, but you know, they got Josh Allen in there now.
He's looking good. We'll talk a little bit more about him later.
He's looking good. Well, if you've been watching the NFL, you might have seen James Conner, the running back for the Steelers. You might have seen his haircut is quite interesting. Here's a look at it. What do you think, Hof?
You know, we had differing views on this. I think it looks like a roll of sourdough bread. You think it's very big in the insect community, which it has been, but
yeah, I heard that roly polies have really taken ownership of it, that. But come on, dude, tell me that doesn't look like the top of his head doesn't make him look like a roly-poly. He's got like, the little things going on.
No, I'm saying it does. I don't disagree with you, but come on, you throw some poppy seeds on top of a roll of sourdough bread with a little bit of cuts in there, dude. It's just like that. Just like that.
All right, fair enough, but we didn't Photoshop that, so.
Nope.
Moving forward, Kawhi Leonard had his first press conference day, media day with the Toronto Raptors, and he gave us a little bit more past the normal Stonewall personality that we usually get from him.
Mm-hmm. And what would you like people to know about you?
I'm a fun guy. Obviously, I love the game of basketball. It's just more questions you have to ask me in order for me to tell you about myself. I just can't give you a whole spiel. I don't even know where you're sitting at.
So either the GM told him that he has to laugh or else, or he's just trying to pretend like Toronto's not awful.
Yeah, no, dude, honestly. That was bad, man. Work on your laugh, Kawhi. You need to be likable. You traded away Kyle Lowry for him. You need to be a likable guy, right?
Yeah, I gotta stand up for Kawhi a little bit, though. He just seems like a guy who doesn't like being on camera. You know what I'm saying?
Or fun, but he's a fun guy, apparently. So
he is a fun guy, apparently. So let's go into the NFL weekend a little bit. We are now at Wednesday instead of Tuesday like we planned because of, camera issues and whatnot.
Yeah.
But we are now ready to let you know what we thought about the NFL. Of course, you've probably heard it from literally everybody else at this point, but here's what we think. Let's start off the top. Jets at Browns. Baker Mayfield comes in for Tyrod Taylor off of an injury, and he brings the Browns to their very first win since, forever.
It was 635 days. 635 days since their last win. Everybody at the stadium got free beer, I believe. The Bud Knight even showed up. So
Did the Bud Knight show up?
The Bud Knight was there, man. Yeah,
we need to find some footage of that. We'll put it in the show.
It was a celebration, man. It was crazy. The city of Cleveland went nuts. Everybody was chanting Baker Mayfield, and I think he deserved it. Tyrod was awful, right?
He was playing pretty bad, but he looked like he was hurt.
Did he? Because there was no evidence of that. No reports ever came out about him being hurt. And this is the second game in a row that he's looked bad. Of course, he looked good in the first game, but he was running around a little bit. In week 2, they prepared for it a little bit more. So I have to commend Baker Mayfield. Really did what Tyrod Taylor wasn't capable of doing. And I think that sort of shows why they drafted him number 1. It was like, you're going to have to fight for this starting job. And he did.
Buffalo at Minnesota. I don't even know what to say here.
I don't feel comfortable. I want to go to a different dimension where they didn't lose that game. But it makes no sense, man.
Do you think Minnesota even watched the tape from that game, or do you think they were just like, yeah,
No, they were too busy making babies.
We're gonna that's Buffalo.
Oh, well, they were in Buffalo, right? No? Yeah? No, they weren't in Buffalo. Well, Buffalo was too busy making babies. They didn't watch film.
Los Angeles Chargers at Los Angeles Rams, 35-23 Rams. I liked what the Rams showed us, just continuing what they're doing, but the Chargers poked some holes in that defense.
Yeah, well, the big thing was that Keenan Allen was held very well. They were targeting him a little bit. The defense was targeting him a little bit more. But Mike Williams really showed up. I was very high on Mike Williams coming into the season. Very talented, but of course injuries. Now he's coming back, and I think that he's a very serviceable number 2, arguably one of the best number 2s in the league already, and he showed it against the Rams. And the Rams don't have their top 2 corners anymore. Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib are both out now, so going up against Minnesota this week, I think Minnesota, looking for revenge from their Buffalo loss, could hand the Rams their first loss.
And that could also decide home field advantage for the NFC playoffs this early in the season. One game that I did not like, that really rubbed me the wrong way,
you can explain why you didn't like it.
The Patriots at the Lions, 26-10. If you know me, I'm a Patriots fan. If you don't know me, I'm a Patriots fan. There you go. Sorry, not sorry. So they lost 26-10. They didn't look good. Brady didn't look good. Their defense looked absolutely terrible.
Yeah, but he is getting Gordon and Edelman back very soon. Gordon's coming back this week, I believe, right?
Yes.
So do you think that the offense is... the offense is obviously going to be improved, but what's the lesson to take away? I think a little bit of it had to do with Matt Patricia. I believe you have a different perspective on that game.
I think that Matt Patricia played part of a role in that, but I also think that it's really important to look at, the last few years that the Patriots have started in September. They're not always the best team in September. That's one of the best things about this team is they improve down the road. So, you look at last year, week 1, 42-27 to the Chiefs, right? Alex Smith threw for 368 yards and 4 touchdowns, and Brady didn't even throw a single touchdown, right? Everybody said Brady looks old. Oh my gosh, what's happening? And then he went and threw 500 yards in the Super Bowl and only lost because his defense couldn't get one stop.
Well, you could say the same thing about his defense with this early season failures, so to speak. His defense hasn't looked good.
You could. But they were also missing Patrick Chung, Trey Flowers, Eric Rowe, Edelman, and Josh Gordon, and Burkhead got hurt during the game. So they were missing a lot of key players. I think that it's time to pump the brakes on the Patriots doomsday rants, but we will see what happens moving forward. I really don't think that they're as talented as they've been in the past, but that's never been too much of an issue for this team before. Bears at Cardinals. Josh Rosen makes his debut, not Josh Darnold. Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson. Those are our quarterbacks, right? All right.
And if you want to get really particular, Mason Rudolph, but he hasn't showed up yet.
No, he has not. So what do you think about Josh Rosen's debut?
I watched his 2 drives. I watched them over 4 times, and I'm not going to blame him for the interception. The Bears defense, amazing pass rush, good secondary, right? He was actually sandwiched between 2 Bears defenders while he was throwing it. So the first interception, I'm not blaming him. Of course, he came in with only 5 minutes left, so he had to make something happen. First game jitters, the situation. It wasn't the same situation that Baker Mayfield was in when he had a whole half. So I'm not really blaming him on the interception. Second drive, it sort of calmed down, probably talked to his coach a little bit, calmed down. He looked very good, made reads, good awareness, kept his eyes downfield. One thing I will say, though, very loose with the ball when he scrambles.
Cowboys at Seahawks, 24-13 Seahawks. You had an inflammatory tweet about Dak Prescott that if you're a Cowboys fan, you might not be so happy about.
No, I think you might be. He's not looking like what he was promised to be when they went 13-3 2 years ago. And if you think about it, Dak and the Cowboys are like Chipotle. They are like Chipotle. When it first happened, everybody was so thrilled, and it was amazing, and it was this brand newfangled thing. And then the E. coli outbreak, people start getting film. People start getting film on him, and all of a sudden, it's not as good. You have the chips, you have the rice. Those are all still good. Ezekiel Elliott is the rice. The chips are the offensive line. They're not great. They get soggy sometimes, but it's still better than average. But it's the meat. The crux of it is the meat, and that's Dak Prescott. And even though the salsa, his receivers, and the sour cream, his tight ends, might not be that good, it's the meat that makes the burrito or the taco or whatever you get at Chipotle. And Dak just isn't there anymore. They've tried to make it the same since before the E. coli thing, but they're not using the same containment or anything like that. They don't have the same game plan. And it's just not working out. And just like Chipotle, it's getting worse every time there's an E. coli outbreak. Every time they do film on Dak, it's just getting worse.
Okay, so let's talk about one more NFL game before we move into our topic of the day. Is Le'Veon Bell worth it to the Steelers? His team got a win on Monday Night Football against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What'd you think about it?
I thought it was a great game. Great game to watch. It was this offense that came out of nowhere against this team that was sort of underperforming and had something to prove, especially on the road in Tampa when the energy was so high. And I think it was a good effort shown by not just Ryan Fitzpatrick to come back, but also the Steelers. Their ability to consistently keep the ball moving, stay just ahead of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers enough to where you can come away with a win even though you're not playing that great.
Well, I had some qualms with the way the Steelers coached that game. They were up by so much, but they only ran it 22 times for 78 yards. So that's a problem. Could it have been because they were missing Le'Veon Bell? Maybe. But you wrote an article on your website from theboostsports.com saying that they shouldn't pay him.
Yeah, I don't think they should pay him. I could argue both sides of this, but in general, he's just not worth it. In the article, I talk about David Johnson. You could also talk about Todd Gurley, who has been spectacular, especially with Sean McVay. But David Johnson, prior to Week 2, his Week 2 performance had as many touchdowns, total touchdowns, as games played. Le'Veon Bell doesn't come anywhere near that. They have Le'Veon Bell has only 9 more rushing touchdowns despite playing in almost twice as many games. It's 35-62 in that regard. And David Johnson just signed a contract, 3 years, $39 million, possibility of 45 with incentives and $30 million guaranteed. Now, of course, David Johnson has that injury history, but Le'Veon Bell has a small injury history too. Only played in 6 games 3 years ago, and he has an attitude problem, it seems like. So I'm not really sure he's worth it. I mean, he gets a lot of touches, but at the same time, just his stats, the Steelers' stats aren't as good with him.
You want to break those down a little bit?
Yeah, I can break down the stats. I mean, there was a tweet from the Herd on September 13th. Win-loss, not as good with Bell. They're better without Bell. Points per game, they score more without Bell. Total yards per game, more without Bell. Pass yards per game, more without Bell. Third down percentage, better without Bell. But I wanted to dive a little bit more into some of the statistics because, Le'Veon Bell's known for more than just his offensive capabilities. It's his patience, his ability to score inside the red zone, stuff like that. So I took a look at time of possession, red zone efficiency, and point differential because how's the team do as a whole, right? I mean, because they might have a worse record, but if they're blowing people out by 20, he brings that energy, then that's a factor, right? So why don't we take a look at those? Time of possession, it comes through. The Steelers are better with Bell. On average, they hold the ball for 30 minutes and 56 seconds when he is on the field, and that is phenomenal. That's near the top of the league when Le'Veon Bell is in. However, when he is out, the Steelers only hold it for 29 minutes and 47 seconds, moving to near the bottom of the league in that regard, which I believe is outside the top 20, actually, without Bell. So then you get into red zone efficiency. It's weird, man, because he's known as this great red zone back, but each of the past 3 years, 2015 he played 6 games, 2016 he played 12 games, 2017 he played 15 games. Each of those years, the Steelers have regressed in red zone touchdown percentage and overall NFL rank in touchdown percentage. So it's just not adding up. And then the final 1 point differential, you would think he brings that energy, they win by a lot. Nope. When he is in, they win by 4.16 points. When he is out, they win by an average of 6 points. So the stats are just not lining up for Le'Veon Bell, and really, it just seems like they're a better overall unit when Le'Veon Bell isn't in the game.
Yeah, and I'd like to point out also that he was offered that 5-year, $70 million contract. $70 million for a running back, right? And as you said in your article, something I like to always say is that nobody ever says that team really turned it around when they got that running back, right? Like, nobody ever says that.
Well, the fact is that Le'Veon Bell's been great in his career. You would think that before his age 26 season, they would have turned it around if they had at this point. So Le'Veon Bell hasn't won them any Super Bowls. In fact, he hasn't even been that great in the playoffs. He's been fine, but he hasn't been a X factor that pushed them over the edge, pushed them over the Patriots or the Broncos with Peyton Manning these past couple of years.
Exactly. So someone, you mentioned Todd Gurley. You could compare their contracts, if you want to. Todd Gurley is currently with a contract. Le'Veon Bell is the highest paid player in the league at the running back position right now because of his franchise tag. But as contracts go, Todd Gurley is the highest paid back. He has a very nice contract at $57.5 million with 21.9 guaranteed. That would be a really crappy guaranteed number.
Yeah, well.
$2 million guaranteed out of $57 million. That's pretty crappy. No, $21.9 million guaranteed. So that's a really nice contract. But that's $13 million less than what Bell wants to make, and like we've broken down, their stats are way too similar for Bell to be worth that much more.
And Gurley is actually younger, so 4 years younger, in fact. The only back of the big four, Zeke, David Johnson, Bell, and Gurley, the only one even close to Le'Veon Bell's age is David Johnson. And of course, David Johnson is 3 months older, but that's not enough of a difference to make a difference in that regard, I don't think.
I agree. All right, fantasy football update time. Okay, real quick fantasy football update before we go. Baker Mayfield. Should you add him?
Seems to be using Jarvis Landry a lot. And I mean, Jarvis Landry is sort of the jackpot of slot receivers. Their offense seems to be moving. I'm a big believer in Carlos Hyde. You know it. I mean, he's a former 49er. I would have preferred that they kept him instead of trying to get Jerick McKinnon. Look, it would have worked out fine. But he has the tools. I think David Njoku is a big upcoming tight end. Despite his stats right now, I think he's due for a breakout pretty soon. He's got the receivers even without Josh Gordon. Rashard Higgins has been spectacular. And Baker Mayfield and Rashard Higgins seem to have made a nice connection in the preseason. So I think that Baker Mayfield is possibly good, but as of right now, I'd stay off of him.
All right, and then Patrick Mahomes. Will we see a drop-off?
Yeah, we'll see a drop-off, as is the case normally with Andy Reid. I mean, the past couple years, Alex Smith has looked spectacular in the first 4 weeks and then had a huge drop-off. When people start to pick up on the run game, people start to pick up on tendencies, it's going to be a lot tougher. But I think Mahomes is going to have a better year than Alex Smith did last season. Alex Smith finished as QB4 last year, right? So, because Mahomes... all of last year, the Chiefs threw touchdowns to 8 different receivers. Already, Mahomes has thrown touchdowns to 8 different receivers. So he's varying it up. He's making reads. He's looking through it. He's more evasive outside the pocket. He's a little bit more slippery than Alex Smith. Not as fast, though, but still. Spectacular deep ball, more big playability. He's going to be good. There's going to be a drop-off, but I think that his floor at this point is something along the lines of Ben Roethlisberger, and that's a really good floor.
And then do we have anybody on the Cowboys that is even worth it in fantasy? I have Allen Hurns. I hate myself for drafting him. I thought maybe he'd be the number 1 receiver in Dallas, but it turns out Dak only likes to throw checkdowns this year. So,
I mean, if we're talking to anybody, you could say Ezekiel Elliott, of course. But, I mean, other than that, I mean, you know my opinion on Dak Prescott. I don't think that there's anybody really because it seems like he's just, as you said, checking it down.
all right, and we are the Hindsight Heroes, but we do have some foresight abilities as well. We have some exclusive future footage of Bill Belichick at his press conference after he gets back, Julian Edelman and Josh Gordon for that Tom Brady-led offense.
Now witness the firepower of this fully armed and operational battle station.
What do you think the Vegas odds are on Tim making that over me? Do you think they're pretty high?
I would say so.
I will say, Tim, props to you for taking the whole dark side thing to the fullest. You know, not trying to steer away from it.
That's one of the best things about being a Patriots fan is all the Star Wars jokes. So
I know
that's
the
all we
feeling.
got.
I'm a Warriors fan.
That's all we got today on the Hindsight Heroes. I'm Tim Wolf. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at TimWolfTV.
And then, you know, I'm feeling a little shameless. I'll plug myself too. Follow me on Instagram at Hoefling Michael or on Twitter at John Hoefling. I know I'm so unprofessional with different handles and such. Also, check out my website fromtheboothsports.com. Thanks for tuning in for Tim Wolf. This is Hindsight Heroes, and we will see you next time.